Corsair, our non-stimulant, thermogenic, and recomposition agent. Corsair is a super cool product because it's going to help you utilize turning your white adipose tissue, which is for storage of fat, into brown adipose tissue, which is going to help with energy production. So this is great to use for a competition prep or in your weight loss phase. So you can stack it with a stimulant-based thermogenic, or you could also use it in your off-season or muscle building phase to help keep you lean and mean. Corsair.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Code. So,
The Code.
Yeah, no Christina today. You got Stephen, Jessica, and Mr. Berluti, which I hope makes him very uncomfortable since he's the youngest here.
At least you pronounced my last name right. I mean, a lot of times that doesn't go over right.
Dude, I can't. The stuff I get with my last name, it drives me. Jessica, you don't have this problem, I'm sure.
No, I've never had this problem. Even my last name before I was married was Tanner. Like,
can't screw it up.
Yeah. Well, apparently my family's name actually used to be Beangrad, and then they changed it. So
weird.
I don't know. I don't remember hearing anything about farming beans, but here we are.
Very nice.
So Ben, you've been on the podcast before, but it's been a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. I was on in 2022, so it wasn't even last year. Yeah, year before.
Oh God. All right. So Ben, you've been coaching for us for I feel like it's like what, 2 years now? Somewhere around there, getting close.
We're getting close. May 2022.
Cool. So Ben, you have your undergraduate degree in
exercise science from USF. So started immediately with pro physique upon graduation. And also have an extensive background in personal training, managing studio. Now I run my own business locally here in the Tampa area as well, along with coaching with pro physique.
Right. Which is a great segue. Not super, I know it's not as awkward as normal, but
this is a very not awkward segue. We haven't even talked about Stephen.
Yeah. Anyways, so what we want to talk about today is maybe some of the differences between your in-person personal training, like what people typically think of and are used to, maybe at the gyms that they go to. And a lot of the big box gyms are obviously, really pushing sales on that with signups and all the other stuff, versus online coaching or online training. So online coaching, don't give me that, Jess. Smart butts.
I was like, what do you mean online training?
Define your terms, right?
And it's probably not terrible because, I've actually been getting questions, or I get the questions semi-regularly for people who maybe aren't as familiar with what online coaching entails, at least maybe for us anyways, versus how that differs from personal training. So we can kind of, I think, get into the differences and what each one is and isn't, and why maybe one might be better as an option than the other, which I think really just comes down to the individual in most cases.
Definitely.
Ben, if you want to get us started, typical in-person training, since you're like the Obi-Wan of this out of the three of us right now, hit me with the outline.
Yeah, so an outline with a session with a client. I mean, look, one of the biggest things with in-person training versus online coaching is you're actually in the session with someone, right? So it's live, they're there, you put them through exactly the workout as you would want them to have it based on their goals, right? So when they're coming in, initially, hey, we do an assessment, we want to see where their goals are, what limitations they have, that sort of thing. And majority of when I'm walking through with someone, through their goals and just going forward, hey, it's going to be with their workouts, right? So start doing the programming, progressing, right? Making sure they're not, lifting more weight than they can handle, making sure they're warming up right? All that stuff, even things at the end of workouts where we're doing stretching, manual stretching of clients, that sort of thing. And then on the online perspective, right? Yes, we are developing programs for clients, and it is very hands-on there. And what I like to do with my clients is to do, things like testing weeks and that sort of thing so that we can measure progression and whatnot. but we're not in that in session with someone, right? So there's a difference right there. And then, of course, on the nutrition side, right, as an online coaching perspective, we're very like on that, right? Like that is, we want to see you working someone up to their macros, ironing things out there. In-person personal training, a lot of times with these people, it's like, hey, let's take more of the approach of, okay, maybe we're making some low substitution. It's more about education in the sense of like, hey, maybe we're not going out to eat 6 days a week. Maybe we're finding other substitutions, right? Maybe we're incorporating.
Boo.
Stephen
So,
doesn't like that.
No.
But what I like, and you mentioned about, so for listeners out there who also don't know my background, I was an athlete. I started training athletes when I was 19, like in person, and I trained high performance synchronized swimming, or it's called artistic swimming now, but I trained with high performance athletes for like 13 years. And then I transitioned into personal training, and I worked in like a big box gym for about 2 years before I kind of went on my own. And then I created, anyways, so I have background in like in-person training as well. The thing that I love about in-person training is, you, exactly like you said, Ben, you're right there. You can tell them, no, you can do 3 more reps and you're going to be okay. Or you can see exactly, like in that moment, you can palpate their muscles and help them understand like where their back is and how to use their back properly and blah, blah, blah. Like you have that connection with them. So it is more about the exercise and the workout itself. I always found that it was more challenging when I was training people in person to have those conversations about, well, if their goal is fat loss, but I'm only seeing them for 2 hours out of their entire week, well, that's really not going to be your like bread and butter in terms of your fat loss phase. So it was a lot of education, but those in-person clients had to have a lot more, let's just say, like time and dedication into educating themselves and becoming more aware of on that nutrition side, because you only see them for like 2 or 3 hours out of the entire week, which can really honestly not even do a dent if you're doing some other shit over here that like is like way outside of your. But I love the in-person because you're there. You're like, nope, more. Continue, keep going. Or like, hey, let's back off, rest for a little bit, catch your breath. All right, cool. Like, how did that feel? Like, you have that like in the moment training, motivation, push, which you don't necessarily get if you are working with an online coach. There's probably not someone there like in your ear, like, yeah, 3 more reps. Could you imagine?
No, that's a really good point. That's a really good point you make, Jess, about how only being with the client for a couple hours a week. Because a lot of times, like, I'll be seeing someone just twice a week, right? So, 2 hours a week. And like these people, like, who are coming in for personal training are often like, hey, I'm, very successful outside the gym, right? In their career and whatnot. And they're like, look, I just want, this person, me, to tell me what to do, because they're busy, like all day, every day. They're telling people what to do. And they want to be like, hey, I'm coming in, put me through a hard workout. You tell me exactly what to do. Make sure I'm not going to kill myself, right? Make sure my form is good. Make sure you're pushing me and that sort of thing. And something else you said, Jessica, kind of made me think of something else is, yes, you can really gauge the intensity of someone's workout really good, right? So let's say we're doing like 4 sets of an exercise. Hey, maybe set 1, or more of a warm up or something, right? But as we get farther into those sets, now we go, hey, maybe we're doing an exercise where we're trying to actually push to failure, let's say, right? And they're going, they're like, all right, I'm done. I'm like, okay, that's set 2. We got 2 more. We'll make up for that, right? So set 3, hey, let's say you push it and they're going for 10 is the goal. And you get to 10, it's like, okay, yeah, it's burning you. You see it in their face, but it's like, this is not failure. So I'm like, hey, we have more. Keep going, right? And maybe they end up with 16. I'm like, okay, so we were 6 reps away from failure on those other sets, right? This is the one that was, the most productive. So when you're there with someone on the training side, yes, it's super beneficial, right? That's why I always, with my online clients too, it was really talk about, I'm like, hey, typically, quote unquote, prescribing an intensity range for you, but this is what it actually means, right? And like, you show me, like, you send me videos and whatnot of what that looks like. But when you're there with someone, that's kind of a nice little, I guess, feature of that, right? That, and the other thing with the nutrition, like you were saying, again, 2 hours of the week with someone, hey, they're going to be on top of things outside the gym, right? So there's a couple things you maybe think of when you're talking there.
Yeah, and I like to think of personal training and the in-person aspect as being the place where probably most people should start. Because you might not know how to squat properly. You might not know how to do a deadlift safely. For sure, there's stuff that we can do in online training where we get video feedback of your lifts and, tell you what we see. But depending on what angle we get, it might not be as good as having somebody in person. I think the hard part that can happen with in-person training is, especially like maybe if you go to some of the big box gyms, whatever the case might be. My gripe is a lot of the certifications don't actually mean that somebody's competent or a good trainer.
Definitely.
So you
You're
almost have to
so
like,
right.
yeah. So
I was like, oh God, that's why I couldn't work in a big box gym for very long. I was like, I can't handle this.
well, I mean, there's that, but I mean that. So I have other gripes with the big box gyms and their training stuff, but it's one of those things where that can help give you like a really nice foundation to proper lifting, safe form, kind of figuring out what failure feels like. I still have clients that I have worked with over the years where I asked them for a video to see, kind of what their sets look like. And I'm like, oh, wow, that last rep looks exactly like the first rep. Like, you need to push way harder. Like, we're not even close to pushing hard enough because you've been doing this for a while. You can get away with that stuff at first, right? And that's kind of the other like interesting thing is that if you're just getting started, you're going to make progress no matter what you do. Like just going in, doing stuff wrong, doing machines, lifting lighter than you need to, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter as much. So it's one of those opportunities where if you can get in and really figure stuff out well, how to lift safely, how to progress in a reasonable manner, it sets you up with a much better foundation to like continue a healthy, long like lifting career and like staying healthy. Because obviously all of the exercise has an inherent risk. And when you start with your trainer, you should be, given that they're, competent and qualified, having somebody that has a much better grasp and much more experience in that realm of how to do those things, kind of guiding you through so that you're learning those basics.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of big box gyms do have the opportunity to have like a trainer for an hour take you through like a machine circuit or do like a assessment for you. And I think that that's a really great place to start if you're new and you are starting to work with like, let's say an online coach who's prescribed you X workout. That's a really great place. But I think one of the things that you always also want to be kind of cognizant of, and maybe this is you, maybe you want to just go into the gym and just sweat your ass off, and that's cool, or like, quote unquote, have a hard workout, and that's it. I feel like a lot of like classes and small group training, and even some of the personal trainers, they had a different view on how they would train their clients than let's say I would, and would just literally give them the hardest workout that they could ever do. And it would be like a bunch of burpees with push-ups, with Bosu ball, like single arm snatches and some crazy shit. And that's fine if that's what you want to do.
Not always fine.
This is true. That's fine if it's not fine. It's not fine. That's why I couldn't work there. But if that's all you want to do and you don't actually have any like, oh, I want to like, improve my shape or, I don't know, have specific
I
health
want to
goals.
swim faster. I want to get better at my golf stroke. What,
Like,
something other.
It's it is a little bit of a minefield. So you just want to be wary of that. And if you go in, like just informed. Cool. Be safe. Don't hurt yourself. Don't like throw yourself out on a Bosu ball and expect you to have fat loss. I don't know.
Yeah, what you put out there, Jess, was exercise versus training, right? You're not just in there doing a bunch of crap to get tired and sweaty. You know, you want to be training so you're progressing on something, right? Because if the trainer's putting you through a workout where it's just random, you know, there's no use of any kind of compound lifts, whether you have some kind of limitations or contraindications, you know, like the injury or something, you still got to have some structure to your routine. It's got to make sense, right? And you got to be able to progress on it. And like if you're going to a trainer for months on end and, you know, you're not progressing, even like in weights on the gym, on your exercises, and there's like, you're not doing any of the same things, right? Like, hey, sometimes I know novelty, switching things up can make things a little bit interesting, right? But sometimes boring is better because you're actually progressing, right? So yeah, that is definitely a very important consideration.
And so I think that if you're doing nothing and having a personal trainer in the gym gets you to go to the gym and do something, like that is a win. Like that's a huge positive. Sure, it's worth your time, it's worth your money. That's a win. You have made positive progress towards some semblance of health goals. Like, so even though, yeah, maybe it's not my favorite thing, maybe, you know, and to be fair, your trainer could be phenomenal. I've seen just absolutely top tier in-person trainers out there in some gyms.
Absolutely.
But like, that's still good. There's nothing wrong with that. So like, maybe if that's your goal and you just want some more activity and you want somebody to be accountable to, and like, ah, shit, well, I'm going to be out $80 if I miss this session. So I guess I'll go get to the gym, you know, good. Like that's still a win and a positive thing. And if you're getting started and you have a good trainer and you're learning this thing, that's still a positive thing. But I do think this is where it forces online coaches to take training programming typically more seriously. Obviously, not everybody, because we have to have a plan. We have to have something to come back to. We cannot, I can't, I don't know how to. I couldn't imagine somebody texting me or messaging me or emailing me and be like, okay, cool, I just got to the gym. And then me just busting out a workout to them based on kind of what we felt like doing today or what they did on the last one. Like I have to have a pretty solid plan on that. So it's like, you know, and so I do think that when it comes to like the long-term progression, especially, yes, for beginners too, but more particularly intermediate to advanced people who have been in the gym a while, who know what they're doing, I think that becomes so much more imperative to making sure that you are making progress, whether that's like your physique goals and building muscle, or maybe it's being faster, maybe it's working on whatever you specifically want to work on, you know, collegiate, high profile swim team things. I don't know. Like
My
it
athletes
just,
were collegiate. They went to the Olympics.
ooh,
Just
it's like a
saying.
different O.
Oh. Anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
I don't
Humble
know.
brag right there, Jess.
I had to
right?
toot my own horn.
Yeah. I didn't even know you had a horn. I didn't see one.
It stays hidden.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I have horn toots, but they're very different.
I'm sure your wife can attest to that.
Is that like the first fart joke we've made?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it is.
We
That's
made
perfect.
it. We made it a good long ways.
But yeah, so I mean, like, just even focusing on the training thing, I think that's a huge part of it. And then there's, of course, cost. And this is where I get kind of, particularly with the big box gyms, because I think personal training is what, years ago it was like $62 an hour was a national average, I think. So I'm assuming it's more expensive, probably like 70 or $80 an hour is probably the average that people are spending on personal training at this point.
Yeah.
Would that be about right, Ben?
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, between 60 and 80, yeah.
So, and it depends where you're at now. If you're in a studio or you have your own stuff, obviously, as a fitness professional, you make more of that. But if you're at a big box gym, I've seen and heard plenty of these big box gyms that pay less than half of that to the actual trainer. And that's being generous, if I'm being honest
I've
here,
talked to
right?
some trainers before working those big box settings, and they make much less than half than that. Like,
Yeah, it's normally like 17-ish an hour, and only when they're training.
Only
So-
only when they're training. I only got paid when I was training someone.
Right. And so I think that does a few things. I think one, it really pushes sales. So it pushes me to sell you something, whether or not you necessarily need it, which I don't love.
Yep.
I can sit back and be like, hey, if I'm not the right coach for you, cool. Like, that's all right. Hey, if you're
Yeah.
not in the place for this, cool. Like, and then I just don't like that the actual person, and again, obviously because I'm the fitness person, like there's something feels icky about that to me. But say if you're training with a trainer, what, 4 hours a week? That's $240 a week. Probably most people aren't doing that much. They're probably doing what, 3 sessions, half an hour each, or maybe an hour each. You're still talking close to $200 a week if you're doing an hour there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can get pricey really quick because you are paying for that like in-person time as well. And I mean, that's great. And if that's what you need and you can afford it and you've found a great trainer, then fantastic. But yeah, it was very sales driven when I was at the big box gym, and I refused to kind of mold to that. And then I didn't get sent, clients that often. And you would have to go out and do your own kind of like, let's say, campaigning as that personal trainer, which is fine. You are selling a service, like even us as online coaches, we're selling a service. But
I'm going to service you. Like that?
yeah, exactly. But just some of the tactics and
Yeah, it's
things.
not that sleazy kind of way, right?
Yeah, I was like, dude, we're talking about people's health, right? It just felt a little icky ick. But should we
Yeah.
talk about some of the positives about online coaching?
Oh God, fine.
Now that we've like ratted all over the in-person
Hey,
training.
look, I'm not trying to rat all over in-person training.
Hey, I
Like,
said it was great.
yeah, it can be great. It can be great. But I do, and again, if you have enough experience, I'm just all about, I just think online coaching is a better platform. I think it's a little bit more inclusive. It kind of covers more things in general, because typically you're getting like nutrition recommendations, you're getting cardio recommendations, you might be getting like step goal recommendations, you're getting training typically, depending on who you're coaching with. Like I always have people with the ability to send me form feedback videos so that we can look at their form and maybe assess if we need to fix something. So as long as you have a decent grasp on things, like having an online coach, you can pretty much address and tweak just about everything there that you might
Definitely.
need to.
Yeah, and
Um,
as coaches, we're always looking for data too, right? Like at the check-ins, like hey, we want to see weigh-ins, we want to see calories for the week, right? So there's a tremendous amount of accountability there, right? I mean, even just strictly on that end, body comp picture updates like every week, right? So like there's that, then that's a huge deal. Like you said, if you have a decent grasp on it, right? Okay, we're off the ground level. Now you can go and make great progress on the online realm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
where people get tripped up a little is because they have this perception that, oh my God, all I need to do is work out really hard. And I don't have the quote unquote motivation within my workout, so I need someone there. And they have this perception that having someone there to be like, do more, work harder, is going to actually get them towards their goals. Whereas there's like some aspect of that, sure. But like you guys both said it, as online coaches, we have the ability to now look at more data points and look at the person as a whole and what else is going on within that 23-hour period other than that 1 hour when you're in the gym. Because if you think about that percentage wise, I don't know, because I'm not going to do math at all, because I only count in 45 increments. But You get that? Huh? Lifting joke. Anybody laughing? Ben laughed. Thank you.
I got it.
By the way, Jessica, 1 divided by 24 is 0.04, well, 0.042.
Okay, thank you.
So it's about 4% of your day
It's
for 1 hour.
4% of your day, right? Yeah. I mean, like good that you're working hard for that 4%, but it really does matter what else is happening within that 96%. See, I did math. And as online coaches, we have the ability to do that. And I like the accountability factor as well, right? Like when my clients have to check in, they have to be saying, yeah, I did this throughout the week. And there's like certain kind of like check marks or boxes that they have to complete, whatever that is. That just truly holds them more accountable to the well-roundedness of their program, not just working out.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing to me, like this idea that, and I get it because it's semi-similar for some people with coaching, and like okay, I need that accountability to make sure that I'm doing it. But like the accountability of if I go to the gym, like if I get off my ass and I go to the gym and I drive over there, I'm gonna do some work, right? But the idea that I need somebody to push me to go hard enough. And again, like maybe this is where like we should talk, or you would want to talk with somebody about their goals. You really don't like pushing that hard. Cool. Maybe we're not going to be a Mr. or Mrs. Olympia. We're not going to be the most biggest musculinist bodybuilder in the world. All right. Can we still be healthy? Can we still make some progress on other goals? Sure. But for me, it's like some people do need that external motivation, right? They need somebody out there. And as coaches, yes, we can do that, but we're not doing that within workout, right? So as long as you can get yourself to the gym and get the workout done, solid. If you need somebody in there with you to work out, I get it. Because there's like, to be fair, some of the benefits for a lot of people, like going to classes, having a personal trainer, going to the gym, like not having a home gym, that kind of things, are like social interactions. You might not get the same social interactions and face to face. And I know a lot of people that have trainers that I've seen, and I swear to, I feel like for them, it's just having somebody to talk to. Like they don't have to worry about it.
Oh yeah, a lot of times, yeah.
You know? So
we said the same thing at the same time, Jessica.
We're like, yeah, we're your hour-long therapist that makes you squat.
For sure. So like maybe for some people that's the extra benefit, and then maybe that's why they like it. And if that's you, cool, sweet. Obviously, I can't have an hour-long conversation with everybody every week, whatever, you know.
Right.
So as long as we're okay with that, dude, we can still cover the rest of that, you know, the other things that are important. But like you said, we can kind of address things more holistically as a whole, making sure like, oh, hey, we didn't feel good with our workouts this week. And, you know, stuff just felt crappy and you were fatigued, but you've only been sleeping 3 hours a night. Cool. Well, maybe this week we talk about like sleep hygiene stuff. Maybe we talk, not hijinks. Sleep hijinks are different. That's when I like crawl around to the side of the bed, put the mask on, and then sit in front of Jillian's face until she wakes. I don't do that to my wife, I swear. Right. Those would be hijinks. But so maybe we talk about, okay, well, maybe we need to turn the TV off or not have the TV on in bed. Maybe we need to cut caffeine off earlier. Maybe we, you know, so now we can get a little bit more in depth on, okay, well, this is now a lifestyle thing. We get to deal with the lifestyle as a whole, because that's easily something that can make you have bad workouts, not perform well, not make progress on your, you know, fat loss, weight loss, maintenance, gain, whatever goals. But it has absolutely nothing to do with the workout itself.
Yeah. I always talk to my clients about like their workouts is like sometimes it's a bonus, right? Like we have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to drink water. Like I have like this like foundational like situation, right? And the workouts are like,
is it like a pyramid?
Yeah,
it's like a pyramid of things. And then as you get higher, they get less important.
Yeah. Weird.
Ooh,
Pyramid of importance.
I love shapes.
Oh, God. But yeah, you know, like exactly the bottom of the pyramid is this foundational stuff that we require as humans. Some of it is like mental, like interpersonal connections, relationships with others, relationship with yourself, blah, blah, blah. But it's also things like eating, drinking water, sleeping, and managing your overall just like stress, right? Working out is like on top of that. So if we get to working out, like that's awesome. That means that we've already kind of started establishing those just like foundations. Whereas that in-person training, we don't really get to touch on that foundation. We're already up a level, but a lot of these people don't have that foundation. And so their expectations when they're coming into a personal training environment might be really high. And it's maybe just not realistic for their life. And I always found as a personal trainer in the gym and talking with my clients about their lives, it was really hard to elaborate further with them on these things because we only had that 1 hour and they're also expecting to have a good workout, right? And so I always wanted to obviously give them what they are paying me for, which isn't just like some stupid workout that I threw together. I always had my iPad with me and I had all of their programs on my iPad and I pull them up and whatever. But made sure that we were going through the exercises in the workout, but there just really isn't a lot of time to touch on a lot of these just like life things with people, right? Like going through a divorce or going through a career change or having like these big life changes where it is hard to navigate your nutrition and your sleep and your stress management and time management and organization and blah, blah, blah. Whereas online coaches, we can really dig into that where, like you said, Stephen, it doesn't necessarily even have anything to do with a workout. Yeah, it does. But, ultimately. Anyways.
So one,
Yeah.
I'm amazed because whenever I train people in person, they just threw a Speedo at me and said, dance. And it was very awkward for me in the middle of the gym. You know, and then the real thing is here's another thing. Like sometimes the answer is don't go to the gym.
Right.
And like if and to be fair, like I'm probably going to be just like anybody else. If the answer is for you not to go to the gym and do a workout when we're scheduled to do a workout and I'm going to specifically get paid on that, like that's for me. I'm going to have a hard time being, yeah, don't come in today. Rent's due. Like I'm now very much committed to you being in the gym doing that workout. But my other question was going to be going back because ADHD, like there's also some people or some trainers I do see utilize cardiovascular activity within the workout. So like they'll just put somebody on a treadmill for 10 minutes and that'll be part of their hour. And it's just like their warm up or something. Like, is that something that you guys do often or did, or that you've seen often in your gyms?
It's not something I do. Like if someone's coming in to work out with me, I'm not gonna say, hey, half your session is gonna be walking on the treadmill. I'm just gonna stand here, right? It's more like if we do cardio, it's going to be at the end, right? And we'll do more of something that's a little bit more strength focused, maybe a little bit more hypertrophy focused, both in the session, right? Focus on some other things, and then at the end we'll do some of that, like a little bit at the end. And usually it's more of a higher intensity cardio, especially if you're only coming to see me a couple times a week, right?
Like more
then,
conditioning work kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, if someone comes in, I'm not gonna say, oh, treadmill, 15 minutes, I'll see you in a little bit. I need to, grab a drink.
I saw that happen. I always told my clients I told them a warm up and I said, you need to come 10 minutes early and do this. This is an expectation. So I would set that expectation. And if they came in late, I would get them to like at least move a little bit so that we weren't like throwing right into a squat. But I would set them up for, you need to warm up. We need to make sure that this is why it's important. And I would tell them what they need to do so that when I would start my hour with them, we were right into things. Or even I would send them their program so they would know what our first few exercises would be. And so that they could even get started on that. A few of like my clients who were a little bit more advanced. But I'm the same as you, Ben. If we were to do something that was a little bit more cardiovascular intensive, we would just do some like HIIT at the end of a workout, like Tabata or some crap like that.
Yeah.
Where it's really good to have somebody in person being like, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Yeah.
You
'Cause
know,
it's
in
not
a
just-
high intensity cardio
Yeah.
session, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think like maybe those are things that people should look out for. Like, okay, is your personal trainer actually having you on a set program to where they are planning to progress things, or they have specific goals for you? Do they have those things ahead of time? And like, is that something they can show you and like help you to understand? And for sure, like maybe you're working at high school athlete, or you are a high school athlete, or, you know, collegiate, whatever it might be, but not quite at the level where you have team trainers. Okay. Maybe some cardiovascular stuff makes sense in terms of like maybe you're doing ladder work or agility work. You know, maybe you're doing something that's very sport specific, but different than just getting sat on a treadmill or a stairmaster or, you know, a bike for 15 minutes. So like be aware that you can do that on your own time for much less.
Yeah,
On some of
and
those
like,
things.
and of course you do want to, like, you know, like you were saying, just like you have to warm up before you hit the weights, right? But like, if I am going to warm up someone, it's
Boo.
going to be, it's going to be a quick, very specific warm up, right? And then we start doing warm up sets and that sort of thing. But yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely, I think that there's always like an exception to the rule. Like, okay, hey, like this person really needs to be put through like mobility work stuff, and we need to work mobility. And so, yeah, we're going to do more stretching in a session. We're going to do it, maybe like facilitated stretching, those kind of things. And so maybe that for that person, yeah, those things make more sense. Whereas again, if you're probably a more intermediate, or you've established yourself into like an active routine, probably not going to necessarily have the same need of somebody else to tell you, okay, we need to do this. You know how your warm up should probably be a little bit. You know, if you need to stretch and do mobility work or stuff before you get started. So you can kind of run that stuff oftentimes pretty well on your own to get ready.
definitely.
Yeah, I like giving clients like homework, right? Like things like that, right? Actual tangible things that they have to do, because then that gives them autonomy, and that gives them kind of guidance over their own journey, because ultimately we are not going to be there for the rest of their lives, like whether we're in person or online. So that gives them a little bit of like tools in their tool belt to be like, oh, okay, I can do that. Yeah, that's easy. And then they're able to kind of build on top of that. Because I do want my clients to feel empowered to, let's say, make their own choice if they're going to be too sick or if they're injured or something, to not go to the gym, right? Like circling back to what Stephen said, sometimes the choice is to not go to the gym. And so like, if you are sick or you had 3 hours of sleep or something like that, and you're like, but this is my day to train.
Explosive diarrhea.
Or if you're like Steven and you have explosive diarrhea.
Don't squat with it. I'm telling you, don't
do
squat,
that.
don't deadlift.
That's the
It's
worst
not
That
worth
is
the risk.
do not recommend. You don't want to turn out like what is that airplane that had to like emergency descent and land because somebody had explosive diarrhea on it?
I don't know. I heard about it from my
Right?
flight attendant clients.
I heard about it. Did you hear about it, Ben?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God. I was like, this would not be, I mean, I was not on it. I only heard about it. Anyways, just, you know, like having the autonomy to be like, oh, okay, like I'm listening to my body. I can not go to the gym if I have explosive diarrhea and save everyone from that terrible situation. Right.
Well, like if you're sick and all this stuff too. So I do like that aspect of it. I also obviously like the idea that as an online coach, like I could look at somebody's food logs and diaries and say, okay, these things look great, these things don't. And again, not to say there are some trainers that will, you know, maybe do a meal plan and that maybe do look at your nutrition and maybe go the extra mile or deal with the other stuff. Again, could be green flags. Those could be things that as long as they're doing a good job and you're happy with those, you're like, 2 thumbs up. What's up? Is it, I want to say Cisco and Ebert, but Cisco was the thong song guy. It's Cisco, right?
Yeah. Cisco was
Not
a
the,
thong song.
not the movie guy.
No.
Ben, that's about before your time, probably.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're old. God dang it. Dang it.
I'm like, I totally remember that. They used to have like the shows where they would
Well,
like review the movies.
yeah, Siskel and Ebert is definitely before your time.
Yeah.
Anyways, but like, so we get to kind of look at that and say, oh, hey, because even like when people are making healthy choices, it doesn't, air quote for all of you just listening, that doesn't necessarily mean they're making like great choices or things that like really deal well with them. Like the big one I think of is everybody, the sugar alcohols. I believe we've brought this up before. Like, I just see like once you hit a certain amount, and it's dependent on the person, like the sugar alcohols wreck people. So like maybe I do get the opportunity to be like, okay, oh, I see that we're doing something that's no calorie or really low calorie, but has a lot of sugar alcohols, and we've been having a lot of digestive issues. Maybe you should try and nix that, right? Because again, that's part of the time that I get to put into what I'm looking at each week.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that it tends to be just, I feel like, and it's weird because it feels less immersive, I think, for a lot of people, because it's not as time intensive with what you're dealing with the person face to face or in messaging or whatever each week. But the amount of things that I'm actually looking at are much more immersive than maybe just the workout that we might be doing if I only have you for half an hour at a time. Whereas I'm trusting you that you're going to handle that workout. We're going to make sure that things are going in the right direction for sure. But now we can also deal with X, Y, Z, and all the other alphabet letters that matter.
Right. No, that's a really good point, right? Because like they're only in the gym for a little bit of time and they're outside, and they'll say, "Hey Ben, I went out to eat last week, but I did good because I got the triple cheeseburger, but I didn't put the bun on it. I took it off and I ate the cheeseburger. Is that good?" I'm like, okay, let's talk about this a little bit more, right?
Delicious.
Whereas like as you're saying with viewing someone's food logs, like as a coach, you could be like, hey, if we made this adjustment here, that would probably help us hit our targets a little bit more, right? Um, I Here's one specific example of and I'm not with a client in the past, like, and he legitimately didn't know like that, we speaking of like digestion and sort of things, like, hey, we got a fiber target and it's there for a reason, right? And he was having like 15 of those low carb tortillas a day. So I was like, hey, let's talk about this. Maybe digestion would be a little bit better if we, had some other adjustments. Whereas if I'm training someone in person, we're probably not looking at that as the first thing, right? But
Oh,
yeah, good
Yeah,
times.
I'm like, damn, if you saw my,
Maybe
if
he was on
anybody's
the plane.
watching
I
the
don't know.
YouTube, they totally saw my face. Be like,
yeah.
whoa.
Maybe not. I think she has it set so it's on the speaker, so they might not have seen your face. One time I think the most fiber I've ever had, and I'm going to say fiber because a lot of it was fake ass fiber stuff like sugar alcohols and those wraps. I think it was like 136 grams in the day.
Holy crap.
Yeah, dude. It was not a good, it was
Was
not a
this
happy
post
day.
show? Did you post show
No,
fuckery?
no, this was in prep.
Oh,
This
okay.
was in a prep years and
Oh,
years
this
ago.
was in a prep fuckery.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Prep
Prep fuckery, not
I bet,
post show fuckery.
I bet you had other
Totally.
things to worry about than your hunger levels for that time period, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
That day.
I thought my insides were gonna explode. Oh, it was not a fun time. But that was also back in like the days where like IFYM was like, cool, as long as it fits, brah. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, sweet. So I was like, but yeah, it wrecked me. And then so like maybe what some of the other people worry about with the online coaching is that it's not as personable, right? So what I try and tell people is like, you're not limited to just touching base. Like my expectations, you're checking in with me with all your data points at least once a week. Like you're checking in with me on those things weekly. But if you have a question within the week or something comes up or we need something, like email me, like message me,
Yeah.
we'll figure it out, right? It doesn't have to just be, okay, cool, we're only going to touch base once. If you need more, then we're going to kind of get into it.
100%.
And then also, like, I think all of us use like the video response stuff. So you're not getting a little text response or something that says, okay, cool, looks good, which if that's what your coach is doing, maybe not the best, right? This is me being nice. It's not the best. But so that way there's a face, there's a voice. There's awkward comments. Maybe I am sharing something so that you know that I understand how you feel. And then, maybe for somebody, choosing no bun on the triple cheeseburger, maybe that's a win we celebrate if it's positive progress. Probably not. Probably still the same thing. Like, let's see if we can find some better options. Because I think it's going to be hard to make progress like that. And then still being able to explain the whys. Still being able to explain, because this is another thing that, and again, I think a good trainer still probably does a lot of these things. Even in person, they're still explaining the why and how things work, and really helping empower you through education through these things. But it's hard to think about the why of why shouldn't I do this, or why shouldn't I do that, or why shouldn't I eat that, if maybe we're going through a workout that's kind of kicking our butt. And if that's a regular occurrence, I ain't thinking about, okay, why shouldn't I just eat protein bars all the time? I'm just thinking about, oh my God, I'm dying.
Trying to catch your breath.
Yeah, so you might not even think of the questions that you had, or maybe some of the other stuff that you feel like you really need some more education and follow up on to like help you kind of make it through with some of your fitness goals, we'll say, athletic things, whatever.
Yeah. And if you're looking, or if you're concerned about like that personality aspect, I think so one of the things that Stephen made me hire you instead of some other coach who at the time was like also pretty like a great alternative, was Stephen was like, all right, cool, let's talk on the phone first. And so I had the opportunity to actually speak to him. And that's where you kind of start getting that vibe of who this person is that you potentially want to work with. Because we do ask like very personable questions. I know about my clients' poop schedules. Like it's very intimate. It's a situation, right? And so when you are able to hop on the phone with someone, you start to get a understanding of who they are. If your coach is on social media and does some sort of like they talk on their stories, or they have posts or whatever, like that's another really good place where you can go. Not everybody has a big presence on social media, and that does not mean that they are not a good coach, because I know tons of great coaches who are not as present on social media. But if you're really looking for that interconnected piece and you're concerned about that, that's another place where you can go. Make sure you have a phone call with them, check them out on social media, just see if they are like that same person on all platforms. And then sometimes like there's, I mean, not necessarily for lifestyle people a whole lot, but there's like workshops and things like that that are sometimes held throughout the country that coaches will show up to. Like we're always at the Arnold and the Olympia. Again, like you can meet us in person and see, hey, are these people real people that
I
have
apologize
personality?
in advance. If any of you wonder that and come meet me, I apologize. I am this person.
It's gonna be really awkward.
You know what? Earlier you said too, like if you were stuck seeing them forever, like that would be awful for you if you had to deal with me for the rest of your life. Like that would suck.
Jillian has to deal with that.
It's different. That's different. Much worse. Much, much worse.
Yeah.
So, all right. What did we miss anything that you guys think is big? Because my brain is straight poop scheduled right now, in the words of Jessica Best. Hashtag quote for life. Put it on the tombstone. Poop scheduled. But did we miss something that you guys think is like a big benefit, or something to just be aware of for one versus the other?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I just think when someone is looking for a coach, it's kind of like what Jess was saying, like, is this a real person we're working with, right? Like, is this person not just saying, "Oh, here's some macros, good luck," right? Like, it's more like you dive in deeper, you're digging into things a little bit more instead of just being super. Like, actually, you were saying it, Stephen, before too, right? Super superficial and saying, "Okay, great job, send a text, good luck. Don't bother me for, the next period of time. Right. So yeah,
Piss off, mate. I gave you your update.
I
but
mean,
yeah,
in my mind, I feel like we covered all the pros and cons, because I think that there are lots of pros and cons. I, for obvious reasons, side on the online coaching route. But there's tons of benefits to in-person training. I think that both have their place and appropriate nature, but it's always the people who are like, oh, online coaching is not as good as in person. There's definitely a different stigma out there, and hopefully we were able to shine some light on both sides.
I have my flashlight in the other room. I feel bad. I feel bad now.
That's okay. Whatever is reflecting in the background.
That's the
Oh, it's like
sunlight.
trees.
Yeah.
That's trees.
There's a
I was
palm tree out there.
Yeah, I was trying to decide why it was doing that. I'm like, you don't have a pool. Like, why is there a reflection?
We have a community pool. After a little over 4.5 years of living here, I finally got the key to use the amenities.
Oh,
Fun fact.
after 4 years,
4.5.
4.5.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not even because I wanted to. It was because I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna get us some tennis rackets and a ball because I have a tennis court over there, and that will give me and the missus something to do outdoorsy, because I get depressed if I'm in the house all day, which is like a real thing. But yes, and so I think that's kind of circling back now since Rabbit Trail. Like that's the thing. Like, it doesn't mean that one is necessarily good and one is necessarily bad, or that, because let's be real, there's plenty of shit online coaches out there too. So
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean that because you go to online coaching, you're necessarily going to get a better quality coaching experience versus going to the big box gyms. I've seen some fucking great trainers at some of the big box gyms.
Mm-hmm.
It's still going to be the same kind of hit or miss. You got to figure out, like, does this person, do they pass the sniff test? All that kind of good stuff. And see if you drive with them. I think the hard part, is that a lot of times the sales component can come out in person because there is that pressure put on them. And maybe that's there. I'm sure there's coaches that are the same way. Whereas, thankfully, at least I myself, and I don't think you guys have to really put that pressure on people. So it gets to be. Another nice thing I think is in the online aspect, I just never email you back. You can never pick up my phone. You can put me to voicemail and we don't have to deal with it. So it's kind of where you're at and what you feel is going to best benefit you. And at the end of the day, regardless of what you're doing, where you're at, you should be doing your best to figure out what is going to best benefit you as an individual with wherever you're at in your specific journey and your goals, whatever those may be.
Yeah, like if you're at the point where you're starting off, you're like, okay, I want to do these basic compound lifts. I don't know how. I want to know how to properly do, properly gauge intensity and that sort of thing. I don't know how. Hey, starting off with a trainer will be fantastic, right? And like you said, once you have a decent understanding of things, and hey, maybe now you're going to that coaching realm, right? An online realm, and now you can make great progress there for a long time, right? So yeah, it's just like you said, it's where you're at the moment.
And hopefully we've given some red flags and green flags to look for in either situation, to give you some kind of perspective and guidance in terms of either choice you make and things to look out for. We're all like,
I got
we're
nothing.
done.
That's it.
Like
So yeah, hopefully, like you said, we gave you guys some things to think about. As always, subscribe, like, comment if you have ideas. Conquer the Stage coming up. I don't even know if this will be out before then.
Dude, don't call it Conquer the Stage.
I'm gonna conquer the stage. I'm literally gonna Napoleon that thing.
It's not what it's called.
I have my flag. You can't see it, but it's somewhere else. Lots of exciting things as we kick off 2024. And Yeah.